Industry, a brand new collaboration that's getting more and more frequent between the BBC and HBO. It's an 8-part series set in the world of high finance, featuring a predominantly unknown young cast with a few familiar faces in higher up roles. The episode focuses on the new recruits at the Pierpoint Bank. It's a fictional bank in London, and it's all about inside trading and the high-pressured world that these newbies find themselves in. They even at the beginning get the cliched look to your left, look to your right. One of those people you're looking at won't be here in 6 months. It's a very high-pressured world. They're treated as beneath their colleagues above them. They're just not respected at all. And it's a show made by two brand new TV showrunners and creators who came from this world. The focus here is on, I think, 3 of the new recruits. Harper, an American girl who has a lot of moxie. She presents well in her initial interview, but there is a side to her that the business is unaware of. She's not as qualified for the job as it would appear, and has a friend mock up her sort of university degree so that the company can display it and know that she's in the right place, in the right job. Then there is Harry, who is struggling to keep his head above the parapet. He feels so much pressure that he is working and living at the offices full time, just afraid he's going to miss out on an opportunity. He's sleeping there. The pressure of the job is getting to him. He has a night out where he gets drunk and confesses to Harper that the people don't take him seriously because he's from a state school and he feels like he doesn't belong. And then there is another chap whose name I can't remember, and I'm annoyed because even when I looked it up on IMDb, it didn't jump out on me.
Is it Robert?
Robert, I believe. Yeah, he is from the Oxbridge Brigade, who sees this as an interesting opportunity, but he's not going to waste his time not partying and comes in late to the office and things like that.
Sorry, you've missed out. You said 3. There's 5 in total.
Oh, is there 5? Well,
so there's Gus. The 4 of them live in these almost like halls of residence, don't
Yes.
they? Where these trainees, the graduates, live when they're not at the office. And Gus is, I suppose, the opposite of Harry. You know, he's very much a privately educated graduate, whereas Harry was working all hours at the office. You know, he's very much got a schedule to keep, and he seems very reserved in this first episode. We've also got, and I think the character's name is Yasmin.
Yes.
Yeah, the girl who seems to try and ingratiate herself into the office by buying all of the coffees, buying all of the sandwiches. You know, she seems very lost and very isolated. And it's all about, I suppose, trying to find a place, small fish, big pond type situation, trying to make a mark, trying to, as you say, that very cliched speech at the beginning where it's you
look to your left, look to your right.
That
person will not be here in 6 months.
I liked some of it, kept to a piece. I think because we had so many characters to introduce and to follow, so if you didn't spend too long with one person. I think if there is a lead, then it's my Hala Harold, easy for me to say, as Harper, who, as you say, is this American girl. There's several things we learn about her throughout the course of the first episode, namely that she didn't graduate the college that she said she did, and get someone back in America to forge the documents for her. You know, she's also the one who has got someone, I suppose, vouching for her in Ken Lung, who plays Eric Tao, who's one of the managing directors there at Pierpoint. And I thought her performance, Myella Harold, was very strong. You know, she was the most captivating. I found the other performances, as you say, they're quite unknown faces, and it does feel like a lot of their first gigs out of drama school, which I suppose helps in this sort of wet behind the ears characters that they're meant to be playing. I mean, are we going to talk about what happened?
I think we have to, and we would urge, if we've piqued your interest, we'd urge to go and watch Industry on the iPlayer and then come back, because there's one big thing that happens that I'd like to touch on.
Yeah, so at the, I suppose, 3/4 of the way of the episode, Robert goes into the toilets and sees someone slumped in one of the cubicles, and it turns out it was Harry, who passed away, we assume, just from a massive anxiety attack.
Yeah,
I think that was the
yeah.
insinuation,
That
wasn't
was
it?
my take on it. Yeah.
He had been asked to go into a meeting, his first meeting, and there was a page of a book that they were going to take in which hadn't printed properly, and just the stress killed him. You know, he was as we learned, he was working consistently, you know, sleeping at his desk. Of the 5 characters, he was, after Harper, the second that you were following the most, so I think there was that emotional resonance to that part of it, and the other element of it as well, the other big story, I suppose, was Harper getting her first big break in the company when she was able to get a sale, I think is how you would describe it. The character played by Sarah Parish, who was coming on to her a little bit when they all went for a meal together. As you said in your review, you know, it's not a world that you're overly familiar with, but it was something, I suppose, that didn't stop you from enjoying it, I'm guessing.
I mean, there was a point early on, I think about 15, 20 minutes in, where I suppose like the best shows that are set in different worlds, like ER, for example, if we're going to mention that every week, that never sat you down and explained what a peritoneal lavage was. You just had to go with it. And to a lesser degree, this does it. It doesn't explain what they're actually doing, what the stakes are, what the jeopardy is here. You just got to go with it. And I found myself engaged with the characters and engaged with the fact that it had a sense of this life about it. The fact that there was young professionals at work in their first job.
Have you watched This Life?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because I know you hadn't for the longest time. But
It
no, actually, that is a very good comparison. Actually, I hadn't thought of that. They all live together as well.
Yeah.
You get the impression that there is going to be some level of maybe romantic entanglement between them at some point.
And also, it reminded me also of those. They had a title which I'm not sure of, but those Skins episodes that they finalised the series off with, where you saw them, these characters we'd known as teens, out in the workplace for the first time. The tone was very different. The characters were the same, but they were forced to be grown up in a world that they weren't quite sure of yet. And so it was a bit like that. This Life meets those Skins episodes. Yeah. And I actually really was enjoying the Harry story. And I think to some degree it's quite risky to kill off the only character I felt proper empathy with, because he was drowning the same way I was as a viewer, trying to keep track of what was going on. And I thought, you know, it's not something I've seen before, and that was engaging. It didn't do the old start at Harry's death and flashback business.
No.
You know, which it could have easily done, and which drama in 2020 does. And I ended up feeling, you know, a bit of admiration for it and a bit of respect for it, because it's not a world that I am au fait with. I don't understand all this jargon. I couldn't pretend that I understood what the Jeopardy was, or what Sarah Parish's character was talking about, or what she even, the fact that you sort of shrugged in your voice saying she got a sale.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's the correct terminology either, but
well, she sold us some shares in something.
Yeah.
Money was exchanged.
Yes. But I was quite engaged by it, and I wanted to see where it went from here.
A couple of things I wanted to say, I suppose. In the first thing, I did find some of the dialogue quite clunky.
Yes,
and I do feel that there was some elements of exposition in there, even though they didn't explain perhaps what everything meant in the world. There was still expository element when the characters were sort of describing their lives, and even that speech that you mentioned was quite cliched. Yeah, I'd also read a headline of a review, I'm not sure which publication, where they said that the characters were all unlikable, and I didn't find that. I wouldn't say they were particularly like you know, likable presences, but you sort of got their insecurities, their ambitions. The fact that there were these 5 characters, you know, you're not going to get everything in the first episode. The fact that you only remembered 3 of them when you started your, you know, there wasn't a lot with Yasmin in this episode, you know, but you got that she was trying to make herself known by getting everyone's orders right at the sandwich shop. And there was that scene where Robert and she were both on the tube. He'd come from a night out, not sleeping, and they sort of looked at each other through the carriage, and
Yeah.
I'm getting the impression that is going to be a relationship that continues throughout the series. Whether I stick with this, I am not sure.
Okay,
I think
that's fair enough.
this was the one that I feel that I had, when it finished, I had less desire to see what happened next. But even though it presents itself as quite a serious, drama, it's quite fluff. It is almost,
Yeah.
if you strip it away, as you say,
Yeah.
you mentioned Skins, that these younger characters. I would agree with that. I mean, there is as well. You referenced DR. There is an element of that to it in the hierarchy. I can't say that word. Hierarchy.
Yeah.
Hierarchy of the sort of positions that the people find themselves in. So you've got the juniors here, like the medical students, the graduates who we follow. Then there's the people above them who are, who I would equate to the residents. Like they've got the characters played by Freya Mavor, who was in Skins.
It was in
and
Skins.
so there's Ruby Bentel as well, who was like the boss to Gus and to Harry. And then above that, you've got the Ken Lung character and the Derek Riddle character, because they're like the bosses, aren't they? They're the big honchos. All of them are trying to impress, and that's how I saw that in the way you've got that sort of structure to the power dynamic in this business. But yeah, as I said, I'm not sure if it's going to be something I will be carrying on with.
That's fair enough. I may change my mind as well. I'm going to take it episode by episode. It's certainly first episode as an introduction to a world, and I do think that performance from the girl playing Harper. There's a lot of strong female performances this year, and I'd put her up there with some of the best of the year.
Yeah,
Okay,
no, I agree with that.